Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Luna and welcome to Luna's bookshelf. So first of all, if my voice is a little bit cracky, I'm just recovering from a little bit of sickness. I got kind of a cold, so my stem is not ideal at the moment, but I just wanted to film a video, so you have to go through it with me. So yeah, so in today's video I'm going to talk to you guys about the books I read in the month of December. It is still December, but I don't think there will be any more books. Maybe one more book. I will talk about that book, but these are the books I read, so that's what we're going to talk about. And maybe one other book I'll finish before the end of the month, but I'm not sure yet. So I would say let's get into it and talk about the books I read in the month of December. So first up, we're going to naturally talk about some statistics. So I read a total of 8 books in the month of December, which are 6 romance books and 2 thriller books. As you can see, I mostly read books on my e-reader, so there are only 2 physical books and 6 other books I read on my e-reader, so that was a really productive month on my Kobo. Okay, so let's get into the books I read in the month of December. So the first book I read this month was Looks Real Good Now by Sophie Thomas. This is a ARC I received, an advanced reader's copy from Love Notes PR, and I really enjoyed reading this. This is a Christmas romance. It's also my first Christmas romance I've ever read before, so I was really excited to read this book. It is a book about Alana. She just broken up with her boyfriend, so she's coming home for the holidays. But when she's at the airport, she sees Liam, and he is her ever first love. And they were best friends in high school, but they just lost contact when she moved away. So in the book they're going to fake date because Liam, he also stopped playing professional ice hockey. I think ice hockey? Yes, ice hockey. And he wanted to stop it, but his father is having a little bit trouble with that. He is like, are you sure about this? So they decided to fake date so their problems are not the center of attention when they're at home. So yeah, it is I think if I remember correctly, it was dual POV, and I really love that. So because you can both see how much they like each other, but just they don't know it about each other. So yeah, I really liked it. There were some Christmas elements in it. I did kind of miss more Christmas elements, but I think it was my first Christmas romance, so I had to get into the mood of it, but I enjoyed it very much. Besides that, there's also a lot going on in their personal life. I mean, Liam just stopped playing ice hockey. He was a professional player, so that took a lot of courage to quit his career at this age. And Alana has also her own struggles and her own baggage. And you see that throughout the book, and I really liked and loved how that was done. It was really well and easy to read, and I really liked the writing style. And on Story Gravit says this is the first book in a series called Detroit Panthers. This is also, I think, her debut novel, and I really think it's such a good book for a debut novel. And I give this book 4.75 stars. I really loved reading this book. I flew through it. Once I was in it, I just couldn't stop reading, and I was so excited for them to get together. So yeah, really recommend reading it. I think you can get it on Kindle or Kindle Unlimited or Amazon. You just have to look it up, but I do think you can get it there. So yeah, and thanks again to Loveness PR and Sophie Thomas for the ARC. Then I have my computer here so I can see the books I read because I don't know it out of my head. So the next book is actually a novella I read was Cruel Winter with You by Ellie Hazelwood. This is like part of the Under the Mistletoe series. This is like a series from Amazon with all little novellas from different authors. And I thought, you know what, this is the perfect time to read one of these novellas. So I read Cruel Winter with You by Ellie Hazelwood. I normally love Ellie Hazelwood, her writing and her books, so I thought this would be perfect. And it is really a novella. It's like, I think maybe 100 pages, but I'm not entirely sure. But it says here 73 pages, so I read it on one train ride and I was finished before I was home, so yeah. So this book is a second chance. I don't want to say too much because otherwise I will spoil literally the whole book. So it's kind of a second chance. They get stuck in the house because there is a storm outside, I think. So yeah, I really loved, you know, the thing is with novellas, because they are so short, it is hard to build something up, because in other romance books you can build up the tension and the story and the bond between the two main characters, but in novellas that's a little harder to do. So in this book it was perfect because they already had a bond before the book started, so they already knew each other, you know, and I really like that about it. So yeah, I give this book 3.5 stars. I really liked it. It was a fun, easy, quick romance, Christmas romance to read. So if you look for a book to read in between, I really recommend reading this. And then on the same train ride, I read the second book in the Under the Mistletoe series, and that is Merry Ever After by Tessa Bailey. So how much I liked Cruel Winter with You, how much I disliked this book. It was my first Tessa Bailey book, but when looking at the reviews on Goodreads, I saw a lot of people saying this is really her writing style and this is really how she writes. So I don't know if I would like other books by her, but in this novella it is not that thick. It's like 59 pages it says, so that's really short. But the instant love and the instant chemistry the main characters had, I just couldn't with it. I just read it, I finished reading it just because it wasn't that thick of a book, but if it had been longer I would have DNF'd it, because I just felt so cringed out at sometimes. If you are really curious, you just have to look up the reviews on Goodreads, and there are some lines in there that I was like, no, this is not it. This is really not it. So I give it 1 star. I really don't recommend reading it. And I'm also a little bit scared to read the other books in this series, because I just read Elle Hazelwood book because I know her writing style and I love her writing style, and I love her. She's one of my favorite authors. But the other authors that have a novella in it, I don't know. So I'm a little bit scared to have my first impression about these authors for such a short book and it not being good. So yeah. And then on to the next, I read another, it's also like a novella, but it's a little bit longer because it's like in the 200 pages. And this is my December Darling by Lauren Asher. This is my second Lauren Asher book this year, and I was just really excited for it because I read Love Redesigned this year by her, and I really loved that. It was a 5-star book for me, and I can't wait for a new year and to read more books by this author. I have Love and Written on my TBR list for 2025. If you haven't seen that video, go watch it now. It's online on my channel. So yeah, this book follows, I forgot the name. I'm really bad at remembering names. So this also takes place in the small town that is where Love Redesigned and Love Unwritten take place, in Lake Wisteria. Yeah, Lake Wisteria. So this book follows Catalina, and her sister is getting married over the holidays, and she is coming home for this because she is a traveling nurse. So it's the same like the main female character was in Just for a Summer. They have the same job, so just travel around the country and have different jobs at different hospitals as a nurse. So that's what Catalina does. So she isn't at home a lot, and then she meets the best man of her sister's fiance, and that is Luke. Luke is a good guy. He is a doctor, and he is Luke Darling, so they call him Dr. Darling. So yeah, I love the dedication in the book. I will put a picture of it, but I was like, yes, this is perfect. So yeah, I don't want to say much about it because it is a novella, so there isn't much to say, but I really enjoyed reading this book. I really love the tension between the characters, and I also love the side characters, like the sister of Catalina was so fun, and I would love to read more about her, but she's married, so it's not like there's going to book of her. But if she wasn't married and she still has to have a boyfriend, I wouldn't mind reading about her because she seems so fun. And even though it was not that big of a book, there is still some depth in it with the issues Catalina has in her relationships and on why she chose to be a traveling nurse. and I really liked reading that. So yeah, I gave this book 4 stars. It is quite high for a novella, but because I really liked the writing style and the characters and also the side characters, I just couldn't give it below the 4 stars. And I think I wouldn't even like this if it was longer than how long it was now. Then to switch things up, I started reading a book I wanted to read this year before the end of the year, and that is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This is a thriller book, and this is my kind of my real first thriller book I read actually. So I was really excited and interested going into it. I've heard a lot of great things about this book. It's one of the first, I think, hyped up thriller books by Frida McFadden, so it's a well-known book. But I haven't read it yet, and I was like, I can't leave 2024 before I read The Housemaid. So that's what I did. So this book follows Millie, and she is going to be the housemaid of the Worcester family. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. But the first half kind of the book is in Millie her POV, and you see how she is handling the household of this family, and the wife is being very rude to her. And you're like, why is this happening all of a sudden, and why is she being so rude? Because at first she was nice when she was interviewing Millie for the job. Millie has her past, and you don't know a lot about her past, and I felt, you know what it was? I get why she was meant to be a little bit mysterious, but I would have loved a little bit more of her past so I could sympathize more with her than I already did. And then the second half of the book you read the POV of Nina, and she is a wife of this family, and then things are evolving. So a lot of things going to happen. There are some twists. I didn't expect that twist to happen. At some point I was like, okay. I wasn't expecting it, but at some point I was like, okay, yeah, it was kind of obvious if I would have thought a little bit more. But I liked it nonetheless, because I really dislike, I don't want to say too much, but because in the beginning I really disliked Nina, and I was like, girl, shut up. I was really doubting the DNF's book because I really hate her character, but I'm glad I didn't DNF it. But yeah, I don't know what it says about the book that I didn't like a character that much. I was about to DNF the book. But yeah, nonetheless, I still liked the book. I still loved the thrill of it, and the plot twist was good. Because it was my first thriller book, I'm still hesitant on how to rate these kind of books. So I just gave this book 4 stars because I did like it, and it was a quick book to read. Once I was into the story, I read it so fast, and I was really interested and intrigued to what was going to happen next, you know? So I'm very glad I did read it, and I'm definitely going to read other books by Frida McFadden. So yeah. Then, because I was like, I read a thriller book, now I'm going to read something else. I got this book from the library, and I wanted to read it because I saw it online on Instagram by other creators, and I was really intrigued by it. It is a book by a Belgian author, so always love to read more Dutch books, and that is Kleine Gelukjes by Audrey Adlin. So this is categorized as a romance, but it's also more like contemporary. This is young adult, and it is about Ada, and she is going to start her first year in university in Ghent, and you follow along her journey in how this feels like to going to a new city. And here in Belgium it is very different than from in the US, by example. So we are not that big of a country, as a lot of people know. We're not that big. But when you go study, you mostly come home from the weekends. But in the US you don't. You only come back for the holidays, I think. But because the distance is not that far most of the time, a lot of students come back on Friday and then go back on Sunday to their kot, it's called. So that's like the house they live in. Mostly it used to be like studios with only a bed and a desk, but some days there's now more like a bedroom and also a kitchen. So yeah, a little bit of context. So she does come back home every Friday and then goes back on Sunday. So yeah, it's about that, about her whole journey in this new student life and how she has to figure it out to make new friends, because her best friend is studying in another place, in another city. So that's a little bit difficult, and I really recognize myself in it because I did study for a year again too, and I didn't feel like home, and I really didn't like being there because I was all alone. I had no friends at the beginning because all of my high school friends were going to another place in the city, and I was the only one going that far away from home because where I live again is very far away. So yeah, it is difficult to adjust to this, and I couldn't imagine living in the US and going away to another state sometimes and only going back on the holidays to see my family. So yeah, I'm very glad I stopped doing that. I'm just now at home, and I just commute between my home and between school. So yeah, but seeing this in a book was so nice and fun, and I really enjoyed reading this book, and I didn't expect it to love it this much, but I really did. And I also love this cover. It's so perfect. If you are a Belgian or a Dutch person watching this video, I recommend reading this video. On the back it says also a book for all kinds of forms of love, family and growing up. It's perfect for the fans of Becky Alpatre, Emily Henry and Alice Usman, and I think that really is. I really recommend reading this, and I give it 5 stars because this book really has a special place in my heart, and there are some quotes in this book that really hit. I was like, damn, this is so good, and it really makes me want to read more books in Dutch, because now I see how if you find the right book, it could be so incredible good to read a book in your own language. So yeah, a 5-star book. I'm really glad I got this, picked this book up and read this because I really loved it, and I can't wait for other books by this author. Then the other book I read, after this I was like, I need something else. So I read The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. I was a little bit on my thriller vibe, so I was like, you know what, we're going to read another thriller book. And this was a new release, I think this year, so I saw a lot of people reading it and enjoying it, but also kind of being a little bit disappointed in it. So yeah, so this book follows, I have to watch again because again, I'm bad with remembering names. I'm going to look it up. The Boyfriends. By the way, while my computer is here, look at my stunning cover of my computer on my laptop. I got this for Christmas from my parents. I'm so happy because my previous case was not it. I needed an upgrade, and now I got this one with the cherries on it. I love it. It's from Berga, not sponsored at all. I just got it from my parents, and I'm very, very grateful for it. Okay, so wanted to state that real quickly because I'm just obsessed with it since I got it yesterday. So this book follows, it's in 2 POVs. So the first POV is Sydney, and she is trouble finding a guy to date. So she is going around on different online dating apps and dating, and she also has 2 best friends. She lives in New York. One time she goes on a date and it doesn't end that nice. That's the least you can say about it. If you've read the book, you know what I mean. And then the other POV is a POV of Tom, and this is before, it says before, because Tom is at this POV a very young age. He's like, I think 16 or something, so there's a difference. And at first it's really confusing because you're like, why am I seeing his POV? Like, why am I reading this man's POV? Like, what is it? But when you're reading more and more, you start to understand it. So yeah, then all of a sudden, one of Sydney, her best friends, get murdered, and nobody knows who it is. So they try to investigate it, but it stays a cold case. So Sydney is a little bit hesitant going back into the dating pool because her previous boyfriend just disappeared of Sydney, her best friend, and nobody knows who he was, so he's kind of a suspect, but it's really difficult, you know? So I did like the twist and I didn't see it coming. I thought something else would happen and then something else happens. So I was not seeing it, I didn't see it coming. Maybe that's because I'm a little bit more new to the thrillers, so maybe if you have read more thrillers you would see it coming, but I didn't. So yeah, what I did think, and I saw other people saying that the reviews too, that the end felt a little bit rushed, and I felt the same way about that, because all of a sudden it was going really fast, and I was like, why is it necessary to go this fast? Like, it hasn't, there could have been more, you know? That's all I'm saying. Nevertheless, I liked it. I think it was a good book. There was a good thrill in it, the good plot twists, and I really am intrigued to read more books by Frida McFadden. I already read almost 2 back to back, so that means a lot. And her writing style is very easy to go through. I also think because there are thrillers and you just want to keep on reading and find out what is happening and what is going to happen. So yeah, so I gave this book 4 stars too, because I think it was a good book, but the end felt a little bit rushed to me, so maybe more 3.75. I'm going with 3.75 just because of the end felt a little bit rushed. And then, the last book I read is a book I talked about in a lot of videos, but now I can finally talk about it because I finished it. And it is a reread of Happy Place by Emily Henry. One of my goals this year was actually to reread Beach Read, but now it's like, you know, I'm going to just reread a Emily Henry book, and then I chose Happy Place, and I love this book so much. This really has a place in my heart. I love the quotes. I really depth this book, underlined this book, and I'm going to reread this book at another time in my life. I'm so sure of it. I read this book 1 year ago, in 2023, so 1 year ago. And I just already loved it, and now I love it even more. I think everyone should read this book. It's just so good. Obviously, I gave it back then 5 stars, and it's like one of my 6-star reads, and it's still a 6-star read for me. Just the writing in this book, the characters, the more in depth of these characters is there so much in this book. Not only the romance, because Emily Henry, her books are categorized as romance, but I think there's so much more than just romance books, you know? So, if you don't know what this book is about, you might want to know before reading it. I wouldn't, because I just read books when I see people talking about it, and I'm like, I want to read a book. But that's another story. So, this book follows Harriet and Wynne, and they used to be a couple in college, and they have a little friend group, and every summer they go on a little trip with the other friends to a cottage. Wow, I forgot the name of the word, a cottage, with their friend group. They were engaged, but the engagement was broken off. But now they're going on this little friends trip. They have to keep up the engagement and the act because they don't want to ruin this trip with all of the friends. So there's a lot going on, the reason why they broke up, all the backstory of Harriet and both the backstory of Wynne. There's so much going on, and also so much going on within the friend group, because it was a long time since they last saw each other, so there's a lot going on within the friend group, and everyone changed a little bit, and I think it really shows how much people can change after they graduate and you just start a different life. And yeah, I think the book really represents that, and I think it's really well done. So yeah, a lot of people don't like this book. I also know that because of like the fact they are broken up, but I just love this book so much. You switch between 2 timelines. You have the now, the present, where you're now at the trip. They are in Maine at the cottage, and then you go back to the happy place. You see bits and pieces of Harriet and Wynne's their past, when they were together, when they started getting together, and also when they broke up and why they broke up. So yeah, obviously I love this book, and this will forever be a book I love, and I can't wait to reread other books by Emily Henry, and I can't wait for her next book in April. I'm so sad I have to wait until April for the next book, but nevertheless, I'm very, very excited for that. So yeah, obviously a 6-star book by Emily Henry again. And that were all the 8 books I read in the month of December. So yet, today is the 28th of December, so we're not completely done with the month. I'm currently reading a book, and that is called The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by, I'm looking at the name, by Ellie Carter. This is a Christmas book, and it's like everyone was saying it looked like, I don't know, I forgot, Knives Out, because there was this murder mystery going on. I'm not that far in actually. I was sick, as I said in the beginning, so I really didn't have the vibe and the energy to read. Maybe I'm going to read a little bit more in the final days of December before the year ends, but I'm not sure if I'm going to finish it. I do like it for what I've read so far, but I think the fact also says a lot that I don't want to pick it up because I'm not that invested in it. Maybe it was just because I was reading it, I only read like maybe 30 pages, so that's not a lot. But I'm going to try reading it and we'll see what I think about it. I just wanted to say that out here and say I'm reading this book and I maybe finish this. If you want to know what are books I maybe will finish before the end of the year, you can follow me on Goodreads or on Storycraft, and also on Instagram where I try to post some updates for you guys. So yeah, maybe I'll finish this book, maybe I don't, and if I don't, then I don't, and I now read 8 books in the month of December. So yeah, that was it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what your favorite book was of the month of December. I think mine is very clear, and I'm not going to count Happy Place, but it was Kleine Gelukjes. I really enjoyed reading this book, but let me know what your favorite book was. I'm very interested in seeing that. And if you came this far in the video, comment down a coffee emoji in the comments. See you next time. Bye!